Hello, my name is Zhang. I'm a fifth-year doctoral student at Olin. This is my dissertation research. I study how work orientation affects employees coping of furlough during COVID-19. My committee chair is Stuart Bunderson. So COVID-19 has largely affected the job market. So in a single week of May, there was 2.4 million of new unemployment. As for now, the unemployment rate in the United States is about 20%. That's historically high. So studying this question is not just practically important and meaningful, but it's also theoretically important. It contributes to the past research in at least three ways. First, the past unemployment research has not studied furlough specifically, but treated as generally as the same as layoffs. But the two are different. Layoff is definite, job loss, but furlough, it has more uncertainties. The employees technically still connected to the organization, but they don't know if the job is guaranteed. And furlough is definitely more common during the pandemic. And second, the job losses have generally been studied as an individual phenomenon because most of the past research has studied this phenomenon in one or several organizations under a common or normal economic situation. But that's not the case of the job losses or the furloughs under pandemic. This is very large scale. It's not specific to one organization or industry. It is societal. And third, it's unclear how the meaningfulness of the job or the calling or sense of calling is going to affect their coping of job losses. So this literature is rather new to management research. It has been shown to affect workers' thoughts and behavior during employment, for example, on their engagement, commitment, or sense of duty. But what's less known is their effects on the employees during unemployment. So to answer these questions, here are three goals of my research. First, I would like to understand how the furlough is going to affect the employees psychologically and behaviorally. And second, I would understand how employees of different work orientations, that is job, career, and calling, are going to cope this job loss or furlough during pandemic differently. And third, what's the role of managerial practices? How would that affect this process? To answer these questions, because I would first conduct a qualitative study, because these questions are not well understood by past research. I would start with semi-structured interviews with 27 furloughed workers who were furloughed by the COVID-19. And then, through a grounded theory analysis, I would have an emergent theoretical model, and then I would like to test it with a qualitative study, a longitudinal survey with furloughed employees, as well as a daily experience sampling of their time spending and emotions. So the data collection of the quantitative part is still in progress. So I would mainly share the results of qualitative analysis here. I started with open coding of all the transcripts to see if there's any emergent themes, and I focused particularly on the differences across people of different work orientations. And then after the first round of open coding, I developed a coding scheme a formal coding scheme and did a second round of coding. And here are some results that I found. I found that uncertainty first as a central theme that emerged from the analysis. That's something new and different from the past research on unemployment, partly because of the very different context. And there are different types of uncertainties. For example, what's shown here is about job security, some quotes from the interviewees, and their career plan. And the uncertainties could be affected by managerial practice. What I found is that, which means, although everyone was experiencing the same furlough under the same pandemic, there was a variance of uncertainties that they felt. And that could be explained by managerial practice. That is how procedurally justified was the furlough process. So here shows one example of an interviewee basically experiencing her uncertainties because of basically no communication from the managers. And the uncertainties could have some downstream effects on both the emotions and commitment of the employees. So here shows some quotes, some examples of the negative emotions felt by the furloughed workers, including fear, anxiety, and sometimes frustration and even anger, and also their commitment. So they were thinking about switching career because they're not sure about whether they would be able to still have a job and whether this job is promising for them. And uncertainties could also affect their coping behavior. And one most common coping behavior that I found across employees of different work orientations is that they try to take control of their life. That's understandable because they couldn't really take control of the uncertainties related to work. So instead, they would seek control on things that they could control and gain control faster. For example, doing house chores. A lot of people mention this. And also cutting their spending, changing their life habits, probably doing more exercise. And related to the core question about the influence of work orientation, I found that calling could weaken the negative effects caused by the uncertainties. Here's one very powerful quote, I think, from a professional counselor. She kept mentioning that I don't have a choice. But I think what she meant was that she was committed. She was still committed regardless of whether her job will be kept, because she'll still stay in the same occupation. She'll still find another job. If the job is lost, she'll still find another job as a counselor because she has a calling in that. So that's the power of a calling to reduce the negative effects of uncertainties. So here shows a combination of my thoughts to an emerging theoretical model. It starts from managerial communication, how the procedural justice of that is going to affect the uncertainties. The more justified it is, the less uncertainty that would be felt by the furloughed employees. And then going to the downstream effects of the uncertainties, it would increase negative emotions, decrease commitment, and also increase life-related controlling behavior. And related to the role of calling work orientation, I hypothesize based on the qualitative analysis that calling is going to weaken the negative impact of uncertainties on emotions and commitment. So to test that model, I would need the full data set of the longitudinal survey, which is still in progress. But here I would like to share some results from the daily report. They reported their emotions through a period of 2 weeks. So here each plot shows one emotion, and y-axis shows the level from 1 to 7, self-reported daily, and x-axis shows day. So different lines, different colors of lines shows the different self-reported or work orientation. The red color shows the career people, blue shows calling people, and green shows job people. The top part, the upper part shows the positive affects, the lower part shows negative affects. As we can see here, about the positive emotions, the comparison is pretty clear. The pattern is clear that the calling people were feeling more positive emotions across the 3 work orientations. And the negative affects, similarly, although not as significant, the job people were feeling the most negative affects. So this is kind of supporting what we were hypothesizing in the hypotheses about the role of calling in reducing the negative effects caused by uncertainties on emotions. So the project is still in progress and is to be continued, and I'll keep you updated. Thank you.